Hello viewers, today for repair we have a Lasko's Power Plus box fan. This is the model number, I don't know, and it looks like it's from the 2020-2019, so it's only a year old. This was found in the trash and it doesn't work, and I'm not really sure why yet. It seems to have very low hours on it, and cosmetically it's in very good condition. So I've never seen the fuses fail on these before, but that's a possibility. Maybe the fuse went out. So I'm going to plug it in, and this should be on now. I'm going to take my electricity detector. Working, and it's not the fuse in the plug because there's still electricity going through the cord. So that means we probably have a motor thermal fuse outage, and why that transpired we may never know. It certainly is not because of dirt buildup. This is not at all dirty beyond what's reasonable, and this will not come out. You know, usually I find these and they're filthy, and then of course the fuses will go out because there's too much dust on the back of the motor. But I don't think that was the case with this one. I don't know why that one was so hard to get out. Alright, so let's get the guards off of here and see what we can do. My vote's going to be on the motor's thermal fuse. It's just kind of odd. The only thing I could think of is like they, put it up against the wall, or maybe it fell over while it was running and that took the motor out. I don't know. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to pull this back in. Let's see if we have electricity going past the switch. It seems like there's too much electricity in here. It's definitely only on half the cord, which is correct. But then it gets all weird here. I wonder if that switch is busted up or something. This is strange. Let's get a multimeter. Okay, I'm having a hard time getting to the cabinet with the multimeter in it. Here we go. Okay. The multimeter. I had somebody writing in the comments box a couple of days ago. They were kind of snarky. And they said, "No, your videos are too slow." Well, that's too bad. This is how I record them. Okay, so we're gonna look for let's do some ohms. I suspect we're gonna have an open load here, or open line is what it's supposed to be. So that's off, the switch is on off. Yeah, it's totally open from the AC power cord. So let's see what this switch is doing, because I think something is weird about it. And this has two tabs on here that sit in the top there. Kind of push these in and turn it to get it off. So this switch, we have, looking at the cord, the high side of the plug is the smooth side. So coming over here, this side should be the high side of the cord, which means the power should be going into here and be distributed through one of these three wires, and then come back here. This is the low side, and then it should go out here. So what should happen is, depending on the position of the switch, we should individually have each of these three electrified. So let's put this on continuity here, and we have continuity there. And it seems like it's going to be there all the time. Off. So it's there for all three of the speeds, which I don't think is correct. Okay, see, it's like all three of them are engaged for every speed. So something is totally haywire with this switch, because that doesn't seem right at all. And I wonder if that caused the motor to overheat. If it was powering all three of the windings at once, that could certainly cause a burnout condition, because it would run too hot. Well, let's get into the motor and let's see if the thermal fuse is shot. If it is, I'll bypass the thermal fuse, turn it on, and see how it runs, because I know approximately how these fans should run. And if it's not running the way it should, then probably is an issue with the switch. Okay, so here's the motor. I'll just work with it like this. Take that off of there. So let's get this opened up and see if we are having an issue with the thermal fuse. Now I don't want to pull this through here because it's got all that rust on there. Once I can get this running, I'll sand that off and then I'll pull this through and clean the bearing out. But for now we're just going to leave it like that. So here is the stator. And for what it's worth, these motors are pretty serviceable and they come apart relatively easily. And here we can go and just work right on it. So, not exactly sure where the thermal fuse is in this thing. It's somewhere, probably in there or in here. I'm going to guess it's over here. So, what I'll do is I'll cut these tie wraps off very, very carefully. It doesn't seem like it got too hot. I mean, sometimes you open these things up and they're crusty. This one don't seem too bad. It's got a little bit of yellowing on there, but nothing major. So here is our thermal fuse. I think it's going to be right in here. So let's see here. This is the capacitor lead that goes to there, and I'm going to guess that the fuse is right here. Although that kind of feels like it's empty. Okay, it's not in between there. I don't think it's going to be in here. Nope, it's not there. Alright, I'm going to say that the fuse is... Oh, you know what? A little bit of something on there. I'm not sure if that's like dried up lubricant or if that's a burn mark. Right there. Something don't look quite right about that. Doesn't quite look like a burn to me. It kind of looks like a... could just be a drop of oil or something. I'm fairly certain that our thermal fuse is going to reside in here. So, well, yeah, I think I can feel it down the bottom of there. Alright. It's a little sticky on here. Maybe this got too hot at some point. Alright, so let's cut this off. I'm going to try to pull this down and cut off down here because I don't have to worry about trying to scrape the insulation off the windings. Yep, there's our thermal fuse right there. So what we'll do here is we'll do that, and then we'll just bypass it. What we'll do is we'll connect this up like this. And we'll stick this back on so we don't have any shorting out. That's good enough for the test. And so now, of course, two things would have to be done. If this works now, I'm going to run it for a period of time to observe it and see what happens, because there's no point in replacing the fuse if it's going to overheat again. And then once I replace the fuse, you'd have to make sure that this is all tied back in there, because if it's moving around and stuff, it's going to break the windings. So let's just jam this back in there for now. Where was this supposed to come out of? Okay, so I'm just going to stick this in here like this, and it's obviously not anything near perfect, but it's fine for a test. You just have to make sure that the wires, or any loose wires, are clear of where the rotor is going to be. Why is this not? There we go. Okay. So I think this should be free to spin in there now. Yeah, I don't hear it hitting anything. Okay. Oh, in fact, we could just check it now, just for purposes of curiosity. Open. Yeah, so this is opened up. So the fuse went bad. Most likely the motor overheated and caused that to fail. So now the question becomes, why did the fuse overheat? I mean, why did the motor overheat? Did it overheat because of misuse? You know, did it fall over or something like that? Or is there something cuckoo about the switch? Okay, now worry about the spin down time, it's just a test. Before I plug it back in, let's go to the multimeter again, and we're going to take some continuity readings on the different speeds. It should be different for each one. If it's the same for each one, then the switch is shot. I don't know what is wrong with that switch. Okay, this should be high. That's a pretty normal reading. Medium. Low. Okay, those are all pretty reasonable readings. Maybe there's something I don't understand about this switch. I'm going to test it the way I tested it before. Okay, this is off. And then I think I don't get that. That doesn't make sense to me. I thought this was just a basic, I mean, maybe it's not, but I thought it was just a basic three-wire, three winding motor, and that was it. I don't know. Apparently it's more complicated than that. Alright, I'm going to put the switch back in. Or maybe I'm not. Go in. There we go. And it came right back out. Okay. And the motor, I do want to put the blade on it, so I'm just going to screw it back in here. Do I have to use that whole stinking plastic thing? Or does this mount? I think I gotta put that daggone plastic thing on. But first, let's just test to see if it's gonna run. But if it doesn't run, there's no point in dealing with nothing else. Alright, that should be on in the on position. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's running normally. So let's get this secured and put the blade on. I'm not putting this in here in the correct orientation, I don't think, but I don't really care. It's just a test. It's not at all the way it's supposed to go, but it'll be fine for the test. I don't see a flat part on there. Usually there's a flat side. Okay, whatever. Okay. Now let's see how this is going to run. So this should be low, medium, high. That seems about right. Let me get the kilowatt meter out and let's see what the power draw is. I believe these are rated for about 1 amp at full power. So, as far as I can tell, it's operating totally normally. So, I'm not really sure why this would have gone out. The motor hasn't heated up at all. If there's really something wrong with it, I think it would have heated up a little bit already. I'll let it sit here, run for a minute, and see what happens. Where's the feed at? It's already fixing to go over. Alright, well, I'll let this sit for a second. I'm going to get out some of the soldering equipment. I think I have a thermal fuse on here. Let's see what I have here. Yep, here we go. These are made in China. Ooh. I believe these are 115 degrees Celsius. That's probably what it had in there originally. So we got one of those. Got enough heat shrink tubing. Yeah, so we can do the repair with what I have on hand. Motor's cool. I think it may have just been a misuse situation where probably fell over, or maybe it was placed too close to a wall and it wasn't getting any air in there. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So we're going to repair it. Before I do that, let's get this soldering iron warming up because that takes a few minutes. The tip is fine. Oh, now that I have it running, I'm going to clean the shaft off so that I can clean the motor properly. Okay, now I would be confident sliding this off of there. Well, let me go through it one more time with the with a finer grade. Okay. Now that front bearing should come right off and it won't get jacked up at all. Okay. cycle through speeds to discharge the capacitor, and let's get inside here. We're not going through the video with that annoying flickering. Heat it up to about 106, 110. It's not totally outrageous. I tend to think that these do run kind of hot anyways. Why is this so difficult? Okay. Gotta get back in here. Okay. Alright, so let's get out one of these. In fact, I don't even think we need any heat shrink? May not. Let's see. Yeah, I guess we do. Oh, no, we don't. I have two of these. Okay. So we'll just do a little bit of soldering and this should be it. Now you have to be careful when you solder these because you can open the fuse with the heat of the soldering iron, which is kind of comical in some sense and also absolutely infuriating when it happens. Why is there a rock? I don't know. Okay, anyways, so what we're going to do here is we're going to put the thermal fuse in between these two wires that I bound together before, so I have to unbind them. Okay. Now I gotta talk on the phone. Okay, I don't remember where we were at. I have the soldering iron on. I think we're ready to put the no fuse in. So I'm going to cut off, because in this case we can just go right onto this wire. I had preserved this because if you have to solder to the winding, then you got to scrape off the insulation, and that's more complicated. So I had left that there in case we needed to solder to that, but we can solder directly to this, and that'll be fine. So let's see here. I'm going to cut this off, and then here we go. Alright, so we're going to take one side of the fuse. The polarity doesn't matter, it's just a thermal fuse. We'll take one side and put it on here. See if we can reuse this solder if we gotta get more. No, I'm gonna get some more on there. Okay, for real? This is not completely straight and it's causing some of the problems here. And actually, you know what? No, it's a good thing that didn't work because it should be going on this way instead. That would have been an issue. Okay. And this will just slip on here again like that. Okay, that's one side. And now the other side. Should have wrapped this around the other one. I don't know why I didn't think to do that. You know what? Since I like to do things correctly, I'm going to do that. Okay. Okay, that should be good. I don't think I got it anywhere near hot enough to open it up, but let's just check it before we put it back together. Nope, we're good. Okay, so we're ready to reassemble. So I'm going to put this over this one. And I'll put this over this one. And we need 2 tie wraps. These are way too long. Let's try these. I think these are comparable in size. Yeah, this is the correct size. So what we want to do here is we want to bury this thermal fuse deep into the windings. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it kind of like this. It should be touching them. I'm going to put it like that. Well, ideally we should not have this exposed wire there. Technically it would not be an issue because these wires are insulated, but that shouldn't really be like that. Here's how we're going to fix that. I'm very distracted by that phone call. That phone call was discussing a major freak show that I'm trying to figure out, and now I'm distracted by that, and I'm making mistakes. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove this again. Iron is not hot enough yet. I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to put this on there. I'll cut that in half or whatever the length needs to be, and I'll put that on there, and I'll feel better with it being like that because that's more correct. There's enough slack here, I'm just going to cut it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and put this on here like that. And that's better. It's just more correcter this way. It's going to be a little bit difficult to get the connection made, but that's fine. Okay. Yeah, I'm happier with it being like that. And then I can put this on over it and everything will be completely insulated the way it should be. Okay. And this could be shorter. That's probably good enough. There's all sorts of cockamamie here. In fact, since there's no winding connecting to this one, I could just do like this. Just cut this off and restrip it. So we have a good, clean connection. The only I don't like about this, unless the switch works differently than I think it does, it must, because this would be opening the return side, not the high side, if this works the way I think it does. Hopefully it doesn't, because that's terrible if that's the way it works. Okay, it's wrapped around there pretty good. Yeah, solder it on, and then we'll be good to go. Okay. That's much better than it was. This is the correct way to do it. I wasn't distracted by that call. I would have done it this way the first time. Alright, so now we have to pack this all back together. And this is a very delicate process. And there's really no room for error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the thermal fuse in first, and I'm going to have this right up against this winding. So that'll be there like that. and that's good for that. I think, in fact, what we could do is we could just take all 3 wires and kind of put them like that. I don't really see any reason why that wouldn't be okay. And I want to make that very tight so that nothing vibrates in there. Because if it vibrates over time, it can ruin the insulation on the windings, the varnish. And so I think what I'll do next is I'm going to take another tie wrap and secure this stuff here like this. Okay, so let's do one more continuity test with the meter to make sure that everything is working the way that it should be. I'm going to go to ohms. Okay, that looks correct. So we're going to call that repaired. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to pause the video. Oh, you couldn't even see what I was doing. Ugh. I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to take a quick break to clean everything off. I'm going to take the whole cabinet here and just wash it in the bathtub. Take this off of here. I'll wash this off. I'll wash the blade, the guards. I'll lubricate the motor. I'm being a little reckless with the stator here. You want to make sure that nothing sharp scrapes up against the winding, so that'll cause an issue. So I'll leave that there. I'm gonna go wash everything off now, and then I'll be back on the video. I just finished washing all the plastic parts. So now let's clean the motor internally. We'll re-lubricate it and reassemble, and then we should have a good working fan after that. Get all this dust out of here. Very important to keep all these vents clear. So once it blocks up, the motor is sure to overheat. There was nowhere near enough dust in there to cause that problem, so I still don't know why it overheated in the first place, but we may never know. A little blast of compressed air through here does wonders. Don't have the machine on today and it's raining anyways. But it's clean enough, I'm content with that. Okay, so now as far as the bearings is concerned, really wasn't having an issue, so we're not going to go too crazy on it. Just clean the shaft off a little bit, wipe the bearings out, get any dust off of there that's on there. I mean, this is pretty clean. I'm not concerned about it really. A little bit of dust fell in there, we'll get that out. Okay, so now let's re-lubricate. We have two types of oil that we can use. We can use the 3-in-1 in a blue can, which is this one. Is specifically for the fins. It says it right on the box. Yet people still seem to struggle with that. The black can does not go in the bearings. It's the blue can that you need for fins. Or you can use zooming spout oiler, and this is specifically for the electric motors, which of course is what this is. So we're going to put some oil in here in the rear bearing. I'm going to put 4 or 5 drops, put quite a bit, and it'll be fine because it's sealed on the back. So we'll do that. And on the front we're going to put some oil in between the bearing and the piece that holds it, in that cloth in there, kind of like a cloth material. That's where we're going to put the oil. Put a fair bit in there, let it soak in, and that'll keep it lubricated over a period of time. Okay, now we are ready to begin reassembling. I'm going to cut these excess off of the tie wraps here. Okay, and I guess that's going to fly aggressively across the room. So that's a little less than ideal. Okay. Now this motor does not let you put this in the wrong way because the way the wire goes through, but the stator does have to go in a certain orientation, otherwise the rotation will be the reversed. I'm not exactly sure how this is supposed to go. I think it can go like this. It's kind of a tight fit, but I don't know what else it would do. I'm not so sure that's completely correct, because there's no way that the capacitor is going to be able to attach where it's supposed to attach now. Okay then, let's see, maybe we'll try and rotate it like that. I don't think that's correct. Well, actually, you know what? That could be correct, I suppose. If there's enough slack for this to run up the frame still. Let me get the frame and see if that makes sense. Okay, so the question becomes now, I put it together like this, and the cord kind of comes out here. Will it have enough slack to go up to the top? And I think it will. Yeah, so I guess that's how it goes. It's going to end up going like that. Now these wires need to be kind of a little bit out of whack from what they were originally, because I changed the length of some things in there when I redid the fuse. So it may not ever align perfectly again, but if it aligns enough that we can assemble it, then I think that's fine. Okay, we're going to put the shaft back on, or in. Put a drop of oil on the back here. And there's going to be an air pocket in there. Kind of push it down and it should alleviate that. Spinning nicely. And then we'll put some oil kind of up around the top here, just a little bit, so that this doesn't slide down and dry metal. Okay, and this, I believe, does have a particular orientation in which it wants to go. If that's like that, then this should be like this, I think. Yeah, because this way, see, it says glory, and then it says it the same way on the front. And of course the arrow is pointing up. Alright, so now let's screw the motor back together. Okay, and wipe the excess oil off of here. Going to put a drop in there just for good measure. Now it's going to be a little stiff because the bearings are out of alignment. It's very, very simple to align them. I'm going to take a plastic screwdriver and just kind of strike the shaft a couple times. And there it is, running just fine. There we go. Okay, so ready to put this back onto the fan. Okay, so we have our plastic piece. And I think the motor has to get attached to this thing first. In fact, it doesn't really matter. I'll attach the plastic thing first because it'll make it easier in this particular scenario. Okay, that's the motor in place. As far as the cord is concerned, this stuff, it's still sticky enough. I think it'll work just fine. Sometimes it loses the stickiness when it gets wet, but I think it's okay. Well, that's ironic. The one thing that hasn't changed no longer fits correctly. I must have the switch in backwards. Let's see if the numbers will line up. Seems like they should. What is the stinking problem here? Okay, so the switch is aligning correctly. Unless, I mean, what the heck? Can the knob go on? Oh, the knob can go on either way, so maybe. Perhaps we'll try rotating the switch 180 degrees and see what transpires. Okay, if we do it like that, I think we're going to create the same problem. No, I guess not. Okay. So then maybe that's how it's supposed to go. There we go. Now it's aligned up properly. That was strange. And this sticky stuff isn't really a big deal because the rear guard will hold the wire in place anyways. So if it's not sticking everywhere, it doesn't matter. And the knob just pushes on like this. Okay, so that should be it. Okay, that's running. Let's fix the plug too while we're at it. This is all sorts of jacked up. Much better now. Okay, time to reassemble. Everything's a bit wet still, but not worried about it. It'll dry off within a few minutes of operation anyways. You don't want to use a powerful screwdriver going into these guards because the screw is just going into a piece of sheet metal, strips real easily. That screw's already stripped. Outrageous. Okay, and I think I left the feet upstairs. Okay, let's see what happens now. I'm going to plug this into the kilowatt meter just to make sure the motor is running reasonably. Pretty sure the power rating is an amp. Yeah, 1.0 amps at 120 volts. We're at 119.5 volts right now. And we'll go to amps and we'll start it up on the low. Running fine. And that's 0.63 amps, the medium. That is 0.78 amps. And the high. That is 0.95 amps. Yeah, for what it's worth, it's moving a good amount of air. Certainly a lot more than the 3733 does. Alright, so that's that. The Lasko Power Plus box fan repair. Is it worth the time? I don't know. I mean, to me, it's a free fan. One less thing ending up in the landfill. I'll get a lot of use out of this. Why not? Made a good video. It was a good project. I'd rather do this than go out and buy a new one. That's just me. So that's it. Fan repaired. I had this running for a little while, and then I discovered why it broke initially. The blade started spinning on the shaft, and so it was running a lot slower than it normally should, and ultimately that's what caused the motor to overheat. Now I think this blade may be defective or something, because typically there is a flat side of the shaft, which there is on this fan, and that should sit up against the flat side of the inside of the blade. But this blade doesn't appear to have a flat side. See how easily that just came right off? I don't know if this has... what is that? I don't know if this has worn out or if it was just made defectively. I don't know. Because this right here, that's the part I'm talking about, the flat part. And that should align with the flat part of this, but I don't see one. So I think what I'm going to have to do is just make this a bigger diameter so it fits tighter. Just for reference, here's a blade that has the flat part on it, and it looks like somehow it totally just got worn off of this one, which I don't understand at all how that would happen, but I think that's what transpired. So what I'm going to do and attempt to fix this is I'm going to take some duct tape. This is the real kind. This is the metal duct tape that you would use on the duct. And I'm going to wrap this around the shaft and see what happens. Of course, this is going to fit on there so tight that it's going to become difficult to take it off again, but there's no other options. That may be enough, even just that one rotation, but let's do two. If it doesn't fit on there, then I'll just have to take a layer off. Well, that would have been okay if the tape wasn't sticking to the motor. No, that didn't work at all, it just slid down. Okay then. Oh, great. Well, this may be more difficult to fix than I originally anticipated. I thought this was going to be easy. Well, easy. I mean, nothing here done was simple, but alright, let's try a much thinner layer. All that did was just push off. Okay, that's about half of how much was on there before. So let's try that. Okay. That may work. Okay, we're going to try that. I'll put it back together and I'll run it for a while again and see what happens. If there's no more parts to the video after this, then that fixed it. If this doesn't fix it, then I will put the camera back on and we'll record again. Oh jeez, it was zoomed in the whole time.